Welcome to PR Done and Dunner. I'm your host, Bob Geller. Today we're here to discuss a topic that is front and center for many, including those in the PR and marketing worlds, namely artificial intelligence. And, many can find it confusing. Is it a threat? Is it an opportunity? Most of us in the field are not real techies. I think we have the sense that it's something we should try to understand and get ahead of it before it eats our lunch. So I brought in a couple of guests who are doing exceptional work in this area, specifically Gen AI and Agentic AI. And let me tell you, I kick a lot of tires. I get a lot of pitches about AI, but these two people have stood out for exceptional work and for their knowledge and results in these areas. So I'll tell you who we have, and we'd love to hear more from each of you. But I met Nic Silver recently through Chris Hansen and his One Network. Big shout out to Chris. He has a commercial system called Content Flow that we'll hear more about. Welcome, Nic. And you're in Norway, aren't you?
Yeah, Norway. Originally from Sweden, but I live here in Norway now.
It's pretty wild how we were able to connect through that One Network and do some really cool work together.
Yeah, definitely.
And then we have Vikram, who is a friend and neighbor. I met him through a mutual friend, Dan Cummings. And he's not in Norway. He's right around the block here. He comes from the world of software marketing and is doing some great work in AI agents for go-to-market. Welcome, Vikram.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that was kind of a quick intro, but maybe you could just spend a little bit more time explaining the kind of work you're doing for the kind of clients that you have. We'll start out with Nic, and then we'll go to Vikram.
Yeah, so I'm Nic, and I started my a personal brand about 2.5 years ago, and decided to focus on AI and help people integrate AI. It was something that was very exciting to me, and it was something I tried to figure out. It was such a new technology, and I tried to figure out how to apply it, and I figured content creation would be a great place to start. And as many people have experienced, AI has a lot of potential, but it's such a new technology. So I think a lot of us are trying to still figure out how to best apply it. And as you can see in content creation, you see a lot of people trying to use it to produce more content, but it often ends up being very generic. So I think that is the problem I decided to solve first, just to have an AI system that lets you leverage the benefit of AI while still retaining your brand voice and what makes your brand special. Because I think it has the potential to both enhance your brand if used in an intelligent way, but it can also ruin your reputation because there's a lot of negative perception around, using AI, especially around content creation. So that's the problem I'm solving. And as you mentioned, I have a product called Content Flow OS, which has started as a way of making the content creation process more effective. But I found along the way that there was a lot of obstacles to overcome, such as generic outputs and, the AI didn't understand my brand and stuff like that. So what I'm offering is not just a system, but a way of implementing AI intelligently and strategically for smaller and personal brands. So they kind of maintain that soul in their AI content. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, let me tell you, I've used it. It works. I was skeptical at first for all the reasons you mentioned. People aren't quite sure what to do with AI when it comes to content. We have a feeling that it can help us improve results. At the same time, can also maybe generate content that's somewhat bland. But we'll talk more about some of the things you've done to make your system very effective. And Vikram, why don't you tell us about the work you're doing?
Yeah, so it's probably useful to talk about why I started my own consulting company. So I spent about 20 something years in various tech companies like Oracle, Microsoft, Tableau. And most recently, I was at Gong, which is an AI first company. It does a lot of call recording, for those of you who know Gong. Bunch of really smart people. But I was on the go-to-market side. And what I noticed is that while our engineers were all about integrating Gen AI into the product, the go-to-market team was still doing things the old way. And I was like, if an AI first company is struggling, chances are most companies are probably struggling to apply Gen AI in go-to-market. And go-to-market's been my kind of background. So I started my own consulting to figure out actually if this thing was real, if it's hype, does it really work? And so I started out kind of going down the chat GPT path, custom GPT path, co-pilots and assistants. Very quickly landed on agentic AI as a kind of real practical way to apply Gen AI and go to market. And so now I help with focusing on small, medium-sized B2B SaaS companies apply Gen AI in their go to market.
Interesting. And do each of you want to talk a little bit more about your tool sets? What are your go-to tools for Agentic, for Gen AI? You know, I guess user interface, all those things.
So for my system, I use like a few different no-code tools. So I use Airtable as the interface, but I tie it all together with automations in the back end using Make. And in there I primarily use Claude as my main AI model of choice, simply because it writes better and I just like the outputs better. And I also like to use Perplexity, so not so much ChatGPT. So those are my go-to. And for agentic workflows, I like to use N8N as a no-code tool. I'm also currently learning how to code my own AI agents with Python. So that's something I don't have a technical background. So this is something, I'm definitely not an expert on, but I'm learning, and something I want to offer clients in the future as an add-on to, the system I'm building.
Excellent. Thank you. How about you, Vikram?
Yeah, I mean, so I have two types of clients. So one is obviously the B2B SaaS company that I was talking about, helping them leverage GenAI in their go-to-market. But then I also work with small, medium-sized consulting companies, so org design companies. And if you think about consulting, a lot of what they do is about taking client information, understanding it, creating points of views, applying their methodologies and frameworks. And so we're working with them to convert a lot of their frameworks and methodologies into agents. And so there are two sets of tools I use. And so there are a few kind of low-code, no-code tools, which are very similar to Make and N8N. So I use AnyQuest, which is much more visual, kind of started out as a Gen AI first company, combines a combination of knowledge management and agentic AI, which is key for a lot of the consulting use cases. I work closely with Agent AI just because they were created by HubSpot and they make all their models and everything available for free. So keeps my costs down a lot. Other than that, my kind of core orchestration engine for the go-to-market side is Clay. So clay.com. I think it's the best tool out there to help you orchestrate your workflows across multiple systems. And then around Clay, there's a whole set of products that I use. And then, there's Claude with MCP, which I'm a big fan of, just because MCP allows me to connect to systems and then just have a chat interface through Claude.
Well, it sounds like a lot of technology. Do you have to shift gears sometimes? I mean, the tech changes so quickly. Do you find that what you build today might work tomorrow or might break, and then you have to go in and patch things up? Because part of the challenge is I think these systems are constantly being upgraded, they're constantly changing, there's new capabilities, new problems,
Yeah, that was one of the issues I solved with Contentflow OS. I wanted it to be able to very easily dynamically change between models because it's, as you say, it's changing so quickly. So instead of hard coding models into my system, I just made it so I could change it dynamically. So that was like one strategy.
Okay.
I applied, and I think anyone can apply that thinking to any system they're building with AI. That you should have that in mind when you're building a system, that since everything's changing so quickly, the system should be flexible. Whatever tools you use, you should be able to. You shouldn't be too attached to one single model because tomorrow there might be a much better model.
Right. What do you think, Vikram?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is, I think, what is different about Gen AI than everything else. One is the rate of change is so quick that there's definitely when, new models and new versions of these models come up, they tend to be much better than the previous versions. And a lot of us who've been doing development or like at least prompting tend to work around the limitations of the model by, trying to prompt it or providing data or stuff like that, context windows, all of these things, but they keep changing quickly. What is also different is that when they come out with a new model, sometimes the old models get sunset. So you have no choice but to go to the new models. And sometimes the old models stop working the way they used to work. I don't know why, but it seems like suddenly either they put less CPU or whatever they do. It's like there's this kind of constant push to move you to the new model. But when you go to the new model, there is no guarantee that all the prompts and everything you wrote are going to work. So you have to kind of go back and really test everything. Um, so yes, change is constant, can't be too attached to anything. Um, Anytime anybody asks me the tool question, I always say these are the tools I use, but there's probably 5 other tools which do something similar. And so pick something, keep moving, knowing that it's going to change, and you have to just keep staying ahead of the curve.
Well, I guess it keeps you both in business, right? That's the other side of it. And you probably have to budget your time, whether it's project per project, firefight as things come up, or just spend some time just staying up to date, and maybe experimenting with different things. But it's interesting just to discuss how this is changing the world of software. Some say that agentic is going to kill off SaaS. When I talked about being pitched a lot of AI, of course, you hear from a lot of PR and MarTech companies, and they're adding all the latest AI bells and whistles. Do you find their competition for what you're doing? Are you trying to displace them, work with some of these existing MarTech tools, content tools? Do you not see it as a competitive threat? I mean, what is the reality?
I like, for me personally, what I've built here is something that is fully customizable. So I know there's a lot of solutions in the market and stuff like that, but like the whole selling point of what I've created is that it's a fully customizable system, essentially. Of course, there's going to be alternatives always, and there are already SaaS that does kind of like what I do, but the whole point of this is just to kind of have it like as a fully customizable system that you have full control over. Like if you use a SaaS, there's certain elements that you just have to kind of buy into their design of how they created the software, essentially. So that's the selling point, really, from my standpoint, or why I don't see it as like a direct competition per se.
Well, maybe this is a chance for you guys to give me your pitch. I mean, typically I say I don't want to hard sell on the podcast, but we do want to hear what are the advantages of your approaches, and what are the results people could expect.
No, this is just like from my perspective. Like, this is the thing I've been working on for the last 2 years, and as I said, I don't have a technical background. I just really put my all into building a system that would be sustainable. I build it for myself, really. It's just something I was really happy with, and I decided to share and test with other people, and other people seem to really enjoy it too. That's really it. So I'm kind of like, I don't like you. I'm not a techie really, but I've kind of become in the process. I'm in the process of shifting gears towards that. So I'm by no means like an expert or anything. I just want something really good, like really solid, that is useful for myself and content creators, because that's the world I know.
Right. Vikram, do you do any content generation with your go-to-market solutions?
A lot of it is personalized outreach at scale, is kind of how I would put it. So it's not about generating large amounts of blogs and stuff like that, but it's about generating targeted messaging at scale to your target audience. So it's definitely that part of it, because as we all know, nobody's opening emails, nobody's opening LinkedIn messages, nobody's picking up the phone. So if you're a B2B SaaS company and you want to reach out to your prospects, how do you do it? And the way to get their attention is to at least reach out to them by having done some research about them, understand what their business pains are, and then reaching out to them with a message that ties to their pain, tying the value of your product to it. So
Getting back to my last question, does that work better than, we know there's a lot of marketing tech out there.
Yep.
Presumably yours works better because it taps the latest AI and it's smarter, and it's
Well, I mean, so few things to add, right? So I provide consulting services, so I sit on top of products. So it's not like I've built my own product. So I'm leveraging products like Clay, but in a lot of cases, we are leveraging products like Salesforce or HubSpot or SalesLoft or Outreach, which provide different elements. And the goal is to kind of orchestrate across them so that it makes it much more seamless. But I wouldn't say what I'm doing is actually replacing anything. Currently, it's sitting on top of what already exists, just because when it comes to replacing existing technology, it's not just about the product. It's also about people and process and investments that have made and training that has been done. And so it's never that straightforward to come and say that, this is going to replace SaaS. There's just, it's much more complicated than that. That being said, I do think that the SaaS companies do need to watch out for, and I think their biggest competition is going to be companies like OpenAI, uh, because I think they're all realizing that their ability to compete on the LLM layer and kind of differentiate is becoming harder and harder. So it's not like OpenAI's LLM is any better than Claude or is better than Grok. I mean, they all seem to be kind of good enough, is what I would say, despite, and all the changes that they're now making seem more incremental than fundamentally disruptive. So where the action has now shifted is kind of one layer above it, which is into the application layer. And I definitely see companies like OpenAI being the competition for, you look at it, OpenAI and Claude are definitely competition for GitHub and Visual Studio and all the development platforms. So they're definitely competing over there. And then now OpenAI is starting to announce, like, they're going to provide call recording. They're coming up with functionality which is similar to Teams. And so they're going to go up the stack and start competing against the SaaS companies. I think the challenge with a lot of the existing SaaS vendors is just that their cost structure is very bloated, just because they've kind of built companies based on an old way of doing things. You look at a lot of these newer AI companies and you look at their number of employees to revenue ratio, it's just a kind of, you know, fraction of what your traditional SaaS company revenue per employee ratios are. And so these guys are going to be just much more competitive with the fewer resources they have because they're AI first and they're used to doing everything with an AI first mindset.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the typical innovator's dilemma is that if they're putting this AI on top of an old stack, I mean, just going to be kind of messy.
Yeah.
Can you share any interesting use cases in go-to-market that you're working on?
Yeah. I mean, so broadly, like I said, when you look at go-to-market, you kind of look at the customer journey and you break it up into, I like to break it up into three key parts. First is kind of the customer acquisition, which is your top of funnel activities, everything to get people into your pipeline. Then there's the opportunity management through close. That's kind of the second part of the customer journey. And then the third part is retaining and expanding customers. And so if you looked at those three buckets, typically the top of funnel opportunities are where I focus on. And part of the reason is because it's very fragmented. There is no one product that you can go to that is going to help you meet all your top of funnel needs. And so, for example, for one of our clients, they had an initiative. They had purchased a product called Warmly, which basically captures anybody who comes to your website, does reverse IP lookups, and with some level of confidence can tell you either somebody from this company came or they can actually tell you that this particular person came to your website. Now, obviously, this doesn't work in Europe due to GDPR, but it works in the US. Um, and so what was happening is they had people coming to the website every day. Let's say 100 people come to your website. They were pushing those to Slack for the salespeople to look at. But what happens is out of the 100 people, 80 people are just kicking tires and not good fit for you. And so the salesperson would go spend 10, 15 minutes on each lead. And after the first 10, they'd be like, oh, this is just not useful. It's all junk. And so they just throw out all 100 because it was just too much work. And so we actually, through Clay, set up an orchestration where now anytime somebody comes to your website, it goes to Clay. From Clay, then we go figure out for that particular person and company, do they fit the ICP for this particular client? So we break it into four buckets. Are they a high fit for an ICP standpoint, low fit? Are they a partner? Are they an existing customer? And then each of them goes through its own different funnel. And then we're from that researching more about the high fit prospects, generating customized landing pages for them, generating personalized videos for them, and then putting it into a sales sequence that can then be sent to them. And so that's an example of where once the machine is set up, you just load your lists, whether it's people coming to your website or it's a list that you've got, kind of send them through this funnel of like, figure out which are the high fit ICPs. For the high fit ICPs, then create personalized landing pages, personalized video messages, and all of that goes into a sales sequence, which automatically gets kicked off.
Excellent. And does it seem to be working? Is it generating some results?
So two parts to this. So the first thing is that it really helps us do our A/B tests at scale. So I don't want to make it seem like, there's like magic to this. So the magic to this is we can orchestrate and we can set this all up. But at some point, if your messaging is still not reaching the right audience, or if they're not, uh, reacting the right way, you got to go back and look at the messaging. And so
Right.
those things are much harder to do, and we're able to kind of do this at scale, see what the open rates are. And then in this particular case, when the first iteration, the open rates were great, the reply rates were low. So then we went back and said, why are the reply rates low? And then we iterate on it, and then we can run the second experiment. And so we're able to run these experiments very, very quickly at scale that we would not have been able to do. But this is what I tell all my clients is if you know something that works, and the only reason you're not able to do it at scale is because you're resource constrained, then I can absolutely write automations that will speed all of that up for you. And if
Excellent.
you don't know something that works, we can absolutely help you do A/B tests to figure out what will work.
Now, you talked about nailing the messaging, and I guess that would bring us back to Nic and content. And Nic, I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more from you about your approach, why your system can generate content that's effective. And we know it's not just about content generation. You also help with, publishing across social media channels and other nice things, repurposing content for different formats. But just share a word or two about how you've kind of helped to solve those kind of problems.
Well, so there's a few parts to it, but the system itself, if we're just talking solely about like what it does, it's basically a lot of prompt engineering has gone into it. It's like a very long prompt, and it has to do with, firstly, like as I said before, it's a customizable system. So you first have to train the AI on your writing. So you use something called a write print. It's like a fingerprint, but for your writing, where you ask the AI to generate like a very technical explanation of your writing that wouldn't make sense to a human, but it makes perfect sense to an AI, like how much perplexity, burstiness, lexical diversity is in your writing. And you then use that as part of the prompt. You then also include things like, the obvious things like your target audience, like emotional drivers and things like that, just so it understands like the emotional impact it might have on your target audience. I think that's a lot what is missing from a lot of these content systems. You really have to put a lot of emphasis on the emotions for that specific target audience. You also need to provide examples of your writing. It's not enough just to tell it how to write, like explicitly. You also have to implicitly show it. This doesn't get you like 100% there, but it gets you very close, and it's very useful when you're repurposing content, for example, because if you didn't have like a prompt with these elements in it, and you just try to like take a blog post, say you want to turn it into Twitter post, it would turn it into that generic AI writing we all know, and recognize instantly. So those are just a few things that go into it. So it's like the prompting part, but also to make the system work. Like when I set it up, I need to have a good understanding of like what your brand is all about, who you're helping, and so on and so forth. That also bleeds over to the ideation phase, which is like also included in the system. Like it helps you ideate. Like you can literally get hundreds of ideas that are guaranteed to resonate on an emotional level with your target audience. But you have to have defined who's that target audience. Otherwise, this is like the AI or no AI. If you're trying to create content and you don't know who you're talking to, the content is not going to hit home. So that it kind of builds on the principles of what makes content good and engaging.
Makes a lot of sense. And everybody needs help there, I guess. I mean, most feel like they don't have enough time in the day to generate the content they want to do. And, if AI can be a force multiplier without diluting your brand voice, your individual voice, then it's great. Question for both of you. Do you eat your own dog food?
Yes. I use my system all the time. It's the one thing I probably use, every single day. I think every single day I use it. Again, because it's customized. It's customized for me, so that's why I enjoy using it.
Vikram, are your GTM solutions applicable to your own go-to-market, or?
Not as much, because I mean they're built to scale for companies
I
with
see.
large number of employees and stuff like that. I mean, as an individual, a lot of my go-to-market is more brand building. And even if I did turn on the funnel and suddenly I got like 20 customers, I couldn't handle that. So it's a little different for me. Yeah.
Well, send some my way. No, I'm kidding. But it becomes obvious to me in speaking with both of you that it's not just what you hand off, it's everything around it. There's other technology, there's people, there's an organizational change component. I'm assuming you don't do all of that. You have people on the client side, hopefully, who are watching over this and provide the right resources. And do you interface with their tech teams there?
I mean, I mostly work with like individuals or small teams and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's who I'm working with, basically.
And is the benefit of working with you, Vikram, is that they don't have to engage their own IT. They can just hire you directly and figure things out.
So it's important to, so a couple things. One is I do need a subject matter expert on their end. Because I don't claim to understand every company's go-to-market. I don't claim to understand how consulting companies' frameworks work and stuff.
Okay.
So key is that from their side, they need to bring a subject matter expert who understands the business side of things. My skill set is, one, understanding the underlying technology to set up all this stuff, build the agents, build the prompts, configure whatever systems need to be configured to orchestrate all of this. And then, yeah, I mean, the IT side, there is not much really where IT is needed for a lot of what we do. It's more I need somebody on the business side who understands their business that I can then take in.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And and I need the business people to test it out, because one thing about the whole process is highly iterative. They'll give something, we take a shot at it. It's like I was telling this client of mine the other day that think of the agents that we build as employees. You give the employee a task, you give them some content, and you say, hey, this is what I want to do. You give them some context. The employee goes and does something. And if the employee's output is not good, what do you do? As an employee, you would give them feedback. And the same thing with the agent. You got to come back and give feedback. You can't just say, oh, you suck and going to fire you, because that doesn't, work. What you have to do is you got to come back and give feedback. You give feedback, then we can go back and tweak the agent to get closer based on people really using it. But, the clients actually use this in production. Then they are like, this worked, this doesn't work, that's great, this is not great. And then we can easily go tweak those things.
Makes sense. So what advice would you give to marketing and PR departments who want to get their arms around this technology, or individuals get smarter about it? Before you answer, let me tell you, I have dabbled in it enough to be a little bit dangerous. And I think there's a myth of no code or low code. You always have to go in there and do some twiddling of knobs and coding in some fashion. Maybe you don't call prompt engineering coding, but you have to mess around with technology, let's face it. You have to mess around with APIs and parse information, make sure it goes to the right place, iterate until you get it right. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know. But what is your advice? I mean, obviously they can hire you for sure, but I think some probably want to try to figure it out for themselves too. So how do people?
That's right. Yeah, no, I would just say that like don't get too caught up like in the technology itself, just using AI for the sake of using AI. Try to solve a specific problem, just like, and then try to see if AI or automations, whatever, could be helpful. That is like, because I've did a mistake in the beginning, since it was such a new technology, to try to sell the idea of like selling agents because it was new and exciting. But I feel like if it's not solving a specific problem, it's kind of useless. Like it's very cool technology and all that, and you should definitely absolutely learn it. But I would apply it, especially in business, like solve a specific problem. You can start with something small and just try bigger problems and solve bigger and bigger problems with AI. And also just experiment a lot and listen to other people. Like I still learn. Like I try to listen to something every day, like how other people use AI, and I try to like always bring in new information, because there's so many ways of using AI that I hadn't thought of, like that I wouldn't have thought of myself. So a lot of what I know is thanks to other people, So that's the only reason I enjoy using my systems, is because I've listened to a lot of other people and their advice. So that's what I would say to people. Just take in, information of more of how to apply it and use cases, and just listen just with an open mind.
Makes sense. Any other advice along those lines, Vikram?
Yeah, I mean, I know people won't like this answer, but I don't know if you can learn this by dabbling in it.
Now you tell me.
I think it's just, I mean, let me put it this way, right? It's like I do this full time and I feel like I'm always way behind. And I am doing this full time for clients. I'm applying it. And it's like every time you go do something, there's like 10 other things which are changing. It's a full time job. And I think this is, I think, what most organizations, the mistake they're making is they're like, oh, everybody should learn AI and everybody, even something as simple as you want to get good at prompt engineering, even that in some ways is it's not a simple skill. You can easily, if you don't know what's going on, you can make a lot of mistakes. So I think that's the challenge which most organizations are going to face, is that they have not yet put the systems and things, people in place to say, hey, listen, I'm going to dedicate resources to go doing this. They're expecting people to learn this while everybody's got a full plate. And it's just, you just have to blink and something new comes around and it just changes so fast. So that's my only advice. I think the second thing which Nic said is 100% correct, which is people ask me like, oh, what training should I take? And I'm like, don't bother with any of that stuff. This is not about theoretical knowledge. Take a problem you have that is, near and dear to you and go solve it. That's the only way you're going to learn this thing.
Makes sense. This has been extremely helpful and great information. I guess in closing, I'd ask, what do you think is next in this field? Are there challenges you're running into that you think might be overcome with technology evolution? Or what are you looking for, say, in the next year or so? It's hard to look too much farther out, I think, in this field because it changes so quickly. But what's ahead with AI?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you want
It
to go
can't do
first,
it. It
Vikram?
can't
I'm
do
still
any.
thinking.
Well,
Yeah, I can kind of give you the two things which I'm very curious about, because I spend so much time building agents. I'm very, very curious to see if these kind of autonomous agents can truly be autonomous or not. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about agents where you just give it a goal, give it context, give it success criteria, and it'll then figure out exactly how to do everything. And then, and so we're seeing some of this with like OpenAI has added agent mode, and there's deep research. These are all autonomous agents where you just kind of tell it something. And then it goes, thinks, plans, and comes back and gives you a response. I just don't know. Currently, the way it is it doesn't scale because there's so much trial and error. When you see how these things are working, it's like, oh, I tried this and this didn't work. Oh, then I'm going to try this and then I'm going to try this. And it kind of goes around in 10 directions. It's amazing to watch its thinking. The problem is that it does not learn. It's like an intern that shows up in the job every day and has forgotten everything about whatever happened the previous day. Because the next time you run it, it goes through the whole process all over again.
yeah,
And so, to me, to truly be autonomous, if there is no way to learn from the previous execution and then get better with it, it's going to struggle. But obviously, a lot of money is being spent. So that's something I'm very curious to see where the autonomous agents go. The second thing is physical. I think we are all thinking of agents and stuff like that in the kind of digital world where it's like software. I think the big shift we're going to see is in like robots and truly, like I think whoever it was, the guy who founded Uber, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think yeah, it was the Uber guy. Anyway, he kind of started this thing called Cloud Kitchen, and so many years ago, where he would basically rent out real estate to people who wanted to cook. And so your restaurants who wanted to just cook something for a meal, or maybe they were doing delivery, they didn't want to have the kitchen and stuff like that. So you had Cloud Kitchen. People could go cook over there, create their meals, and then go do whatever they wanted to do. And his vision for where he wants to take it is that he's going to create like a Chipotle kind of thingy where he's going to have a robot which is going to take all the ingredients, create burritos and whatever else. And then it's going to automatically. So you as a customer will call in. So there'll be a robot which will take your order, or an agent that will take your order, pass it to this robot that will cook the whole meal and package it and all of that stuff, which will then pass it to its autonomous car driving thingy, which is then going to come and deliver it to you.
that's amazing.
So this kind of physical world, when it gets roboticized with AI, is going to be very interesting. So I think Tesla's trying to do it with their Tesla diner, which just opened in LA. But that's going to be a bit of a game changer, because then currently we know that LLMs and ChatGPT and OpenAI are going to take white collar jobs. Those things then start taking the jobs of the people working at McDonald's and stuff like that. And then we have to see what happens to the economy.
Interesting. Nic, anything else to add there?
No, I mean, the only thing is that I do think whether these AI agents have the ability to learn or not within the next year, I still think we're going to see more and more implementation in businesses because they are still very useful. And, and having a team of multiple agents performing these very specific tasks and working together is incredibly useful and will be able to save businesses a lot of time. So I think we will see that, whether that will replace how that will affect the like actual people, or if there will be people overseeing the systems. I think my personal opinion is that I think there might be like a downsizing of like staff. Obviously, they could save money because if someone has a job of just entering data, why wouldn't an AI agent be able to do that? But I think there's going to be more positions where your job is to kind of work with the AI agentic team, or oversee these AI agents. So that's
So,
where my prediction.
so great jobs as well.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining. I'll leave your information in the show notes so people know how to get in touch with you. Anybody who's watching and likes this content, please subscribe, share, like, etc. And look forward to staying in touch with both of you. And have a great day.